people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Ow! Okay, we'll start with this per tweet from Michael Benson. Eddie Hearn on Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte disputes. There's just loads of different problems to resolve. I don't think it's going to affect the fight, but to be honest with you, I'm so glad I'm not involved. Hopefully, they both get in the ring and give everybody a great fight. It's quite right. Wasn't that long ago we heard Frank Warren in a verbal sparring session with Dillian Whyte's lawyer, several discrepancies between the two teams in reference to a fight that's supposed to be already made, a fight that's supposed to already be on the line, yet not that long ago. Seems like Team Fury and Team Whyte were at each other's throats.
This has led to some skepticism as to whether or not the fight will happen.
In conjunction with the undercard not being officially set 4 weeks out, approximately just 4 weeks out from the fight. 4 weeks out.
Take a trip over to BoxRec and all you see is that Isaac Lowe's supposed to be fighting an opponent that's yet to be announced.
4 weeks out from the fight. That's the undercard so far. And I reiterate, this has led to some skepticism as to whether or not the fight will happen.
Tyson Fury said he might retire after this fight.
Bob Arum addressed those claims from Tyson Fury, stating,
I think when he sees what's out there, maybe Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, he might stick around. If there's another big fight for him, he will, in my opinion, without question, take that fight.
Bob Arum wasn't the only one who addressed Tyson Fury's potential retirement after this fight, assuming this fight even happens. Sugar Hill Stewart, Tyson Fury's trainer, on Tyson Fury saying he's going to retire after the Dillian Whyte fight. Stewart said, whatever he says at the time, that's what it is. Everybody in the world changes their mind. Nobody believes Tyson anyway, so what difference does it make?
It is true. Everybody changes their mind. They're entitled to.
Though not everybody changes their mind as often, quite as frequently as Tyson Fury. And so soon after making a statement, he'll make an opposing statement that's in exact contradiction of what he just said. I mean,
The guy's a spastic.
so Sugar Hill Stewart, I think he hit the nail on the head. In spite of Tyson Fury saying that he might retire, I think most people don't believe him anyway. Now that the Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk rematch is on track,
There were question marks.
due to the crisis in Ukraine and the fact that Alexander Usyk was there was a question as to whether or not he would even be allowed to leave the country to participate in a rematch with Anthony Joshua, and we have those answers. Thus,
It gives Tyson Fury something to shoot for.
so long as Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk fight for a second time and a victor emerges, that gives Tyson Fury someone to target, something to shoot for, someone to shoot at.
Yeah, now it does.
Sugar Hill Stewart very recently chimed in on Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte not coming face-to-face yet. He said it's only a matter of time. You can't avoid what's been avoided for long. It's always going to be a time when you have to face up to it.
Well, who's doing the avoiding here?
I think it all depends on who you ask. If you ask Dillian Whyte's supporters, if you ask Dillian Whyte's fans, they're going to tell you it took a lot of work to get this far. It seems like they had to bend Tyson Fury's arm to get him to finally give Dillian Whyte a world title shot, a world title opportunity. You didn't need all this production to get him in the ring with Tom Schwarz, Otto Wallin, any of those guys, but with Dillian Whyte, it seems like it took a lot of effort to get here, to get to this point. Put the shoe on the other foot, and you ask Tyson Fury's fans about it, well, it's Dillian Whyte that's avoiding Tyson Fury. He doesn't want to do any press conferences.
He hasn't done any yet.
They think Dillian a petulant child for not participating in the promotion of this fight, even though Dillian Whyte doesn't stand to gain anything.
Not going to get any extra money for doing these press conferences.
He's not getting a share of the pay-per-views upside, assuming that there even is one given the size of the pot and what the break-even point for a fight that size might be. A $41 million fight, you're going to have to sell a lot of pay-per-views transatlantically in order to break even, just break even, let alone
for there to be an upside.
And I think that particular element is going over a lot of people's heads. The size of the pot and just how many pay-per-views do you have to sell before you can even break even, let alone for there to actually be an upside to profit from. Not that Dillian Whyte is going to get anything out of the upside, assuming there even is one.
So what difference does it make to him if the pay-per-view breaks even or not?
He's not getting anything extra if it does, or if there even is an upside. I want to say that I've always thought of this fight as a major fight in the United Kingdom, a big fight, a very big fight, and it is living up to those expectations in terms of size and scale, though because Frank Warren...
You have to remember, it's a $41 million pot per report.
It's a $41 million fight per reports, though initially, that's not how they priced it.
It's only $41 million now because Frank Warren and Bob Arum joined forces and bid aggressively to win the rights for the fight.
They knew Eddie Hearn was going to bid aggressively to win the rights for the fight, thus they had to make sure they beat him out to ensure that the fight happens on their side of things, and they've done that. But now, as a result of that, there's that much more money in the pot, and you got to sell that many more pay-per-views in order to break even. In layman's terms, the fight is a lot more expensive to put on now than it was before, because before...
It wasn't a $41 million fight before.
And it's only a $41 million fight now because Frank Warren, Bob Arum, they had to ensure they bid aggressively, place the winning bid in order to beat out Eddie Hearn, in order to ensure...
They had to bid aggressively to make sure they get the rights for the fight, and they've done that.
There are now more risks involved, financially, fiscally. It's a more expensive fight to put on as a result. You gotta sell a lot of pay-per-views to cover that.
Tyson Fury has enlisted the aid of Jarrell Miller.
Two-time ped cheat, the now disgraced Jarrell Miller, who's set to return to action very soon. That ban he received after having tested positive the last time for all of those banned substances. That ban is set to be lifted very soon.
Oh, it's been 2 years already?
You know what they say, time flies when you're having fun.
What they say.
As far as sparring and preparation for what a Dillian Whyte brings to the table, I will say that Jarrell Miller can provide Tyson Fury with adequate sparring, adequate preparation, because Jarrell Miller, like Dillian Whyte, he is a mid-range to inside hooker. Nowhere near as proven as Dillian Whyte at the upper echelon, the upper tier level. I mean, Dillian Whyte is a guy who's faced Robert Helenius, has faced Oscar Rivas, Alexander Povetkin 2 times.
Joseph Parker.
I mean, Jarrell Miller doesn't have the same kind of resume that Dillian Whyte has. Jarrell Miller hasn't competed at the same level as Dillian Whyte, though in terms of base styles, there are similarities. Both Jarrell Miller and Dillian Whyte are mid-range to inside pressure guys, pressure fighters. They favor close quarters fighting. Thus, Jarrell Miller will provide adequate sparring, adequate preparation for Tyson Fury.
Is there anything unethical about Jarrell Miller being a 2-time ped cheat?
Not really, not when you consider that fighters like Luis Ortiz and Lucas Brown have both tested positive for banned substances on more than one occasion, not when you consider that both Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury have had their own fiascos in terms of adverse findings and banned substances.
No, I wouldn't get too hung up on that stuff when it comes to these guys. Not these guys.
It's not any of us get on a high horse here. There's reason enough to be suspicious of both Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte, especially Jarrell Miller. Ultimately,
whatever you want to say about Dillian Whyte and his banned substance fiasco, you could also say about Tyson Fury.
The same is true in reverse, so let's not waste each other's time with that stuff. I do think Jarrell Miller can provide adequate sparring for Tyson Fury in preparation for this match, and I'm just hoping that it actually happens. I'm hoping the fight actually takes place. In Super Bantamweight news, former unified champion Daniel Roman states Fulton didn't handle pressure well. I planned to surprise him.
Why are you going to do that? You just let him know what you're going to do.
I don't really think it's going to be much of a surprise now. This is the fight of a lifetime for me. A chance to become a 2-time unified champion, and for that reason, I had to enlist a world-class strength and conditioning team to take me to the next level, said Roman after a workout. We're doing things I've never done before, like following my heart rate, doing high-intensity interval training, working on balance. Every day I go to the gym and I'm being pushed to better myself in uncomfortable places. The craziest part is every exercise works towards what I want to do in the ring. So it just adds to the training. I wish I had done this sooner, but I'm grateful for doing it now.
Daniel Roman lost the IBF and WBA titles to Uzbekistan's MJ Akhmadaliev.
It was approximately 2-3 fights ago in January of 2020 before the pandemic shut everything down.
I wouldn't have minded seeing a rematch between those two boys.
But alas, it didn't happen. Daniel added, in Fulton's last fight, I saw that he didn't handle pressure very well. And in this fight, he needs to improve on that because I'm going to bring everything Figueroa brought and more, said Roman. I am working on everything. I feel he could have an edge on me in this fight, starting with every aspect of my strength and conditioning. My goal is to surprise him with the newest version of myself on fight night. Roman is riding a 2-fight winning streak and is eager to become a 2-time unified champion for the 2nd time in his career, a rare feat in the sport. I want to be a legend, a Hall of Famer, and to do that, I have to win this fight, said Roman. I'm pushing myself every day in the gym.
Danny Roman has fought 2 times since dropping that decision to MJ Akhmadaliev.
He fought Juan Carlos Payano in September of 2020, and he fought Ricardo Franco in May of last year. That was Daniel Roman's only fight, his only fight the whole of 2021. I think he could have stood to be a little bit more active, but alas, it was not to be.
He beat those 2 guys, and now he's looking to beat this guy.
He's looking to beat unbeaten Stephen Fulton, one of 2 unified champions in today's super bantamweight division. The 4 major titles, the 4 major alphabet titles are split 2 ways between 2 guys, Stephen Fulton on the PBC side of things and MJ Akhmadaliev on the Matchroom DAZN side of things. The question is, can Roman do it? Can Roman pull this off? I'll say that Daniel Roman has the right idea. Characteristically, Daniel Roman is a busy puncher, a prolific one, but he's never been a big puncher. He's never been a power guy.
So he does have the right idea. He could stand to be a heavier puncher.
He's got the right idea. But power is one of those things to where either you got it or you don't. You can sharpen it, you can amplify what you already have.
Yeah, you can amplify it.
Amplify what you already have, though I reiterate. Power is one of those things to where either you got it or you don't. Daniel Roman is a seasoned fighter, seasoned professional, a veteran of 33 professional contests, 33 professional fights. He's only won 10 of those fights by way of knockout.
Sporting a professional record of 29 wins with 3 losses, 1 draw, 10 knockouts. Never been stopped.
Daniel Roman is durable, but then again, so is Stephen Fulton. And that was the takeaway for me in that Brandon Figueroa fight that he had in his last outing, that unification match between those 2 unbeaten champions. Stephen Fulton was coming up against a rather statuesque, physically imposing super bantamweight. Brandon Figueroa has very generous dimensions for a 122-pound fighter, and Stephen Fulton had to work around that, do his best.
Danny's right. Stephen looked uncomfortable in there.
It's the most uncomfortable I've ever seen him. It was a far cry from the Stephen Fulton that we saw in the Angelo Leo fight.
Then again, Angelo Leo's nowhere near as physically imposing as Brandon Figueroa.
Listen, it wasn't just the pressure that bothered Stephen Fulton. It was pressure being applied by a physically imposing fighter that bothered him. A durable one that has punching power. You saw what he did to Luis Neri. I mean, Daniel's got the right idea, but I think he's not factoring certain things into the equation. Stephen Fulton is no stranger to fighters that apply pressure. He fought Arnold Kagai and won a decision. He fought Angelo Leo.
He fought most of that fight in the pocket.
Put simply, it's not just the pressure that bothered Stephen Fulton in the Brandon Figueroa fight. It was a physically imposing fighter bearing down on him, applying pressure that made him look uncomfortable. And Daniel Roman, not being a characteristically big puncher, I mean a big puncher, a prolific puncher, he's that, but he's not a big puncher. You gotta give the edge to Stephen, unless Daniel Roman surprises us all.
This fight's set to go down June 4th at the Armory in Minneapolis.
Same place Tszyu and Gausha just fought this past weekend.
Decent fight, this one.
I think it's gonna be an action fight. That is, I think Daniel Roman will try to draw Stephen Fulton out into a war. Stephen Fulton, who at this time is a shoo-in to be integrated into the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. Stephen Fulton has beaten 2 unbeaten champions and taken their alphabet titles from them. He's in the running.
And if he beats Daniel Roman in June,
that will further strengthen his argument, that successful title defense against the former unified champion in Daniel Roman. I do think you gotta give Stephen the edge.
We'll see what shakes out in June.
Speaking of good fights, Tszyu stated, after the knockdown, I was like, I'm in a fight. I need to fucking wake up and get my shit together.
Tszyu, who I mentioned earlier.
Tszyu, who was in action this past weekend at the Armory in Minneapolis.
The site of what is to be the Stephen Fulton versus Daniel Roman fight in June.
Tszyu stated, I thought I was a bit too relaxed coming in. Everything was just like, I wasn't too pumped, I wasn't too mellow. Tszyu confessed to Boxing Scene after his first career fight outside of Australia. Usually before my fights, I'm pumped and nervous. It took me a couple of rounds to get in my comfort zone.
Get in the groove.
I was buzzed to fight here. here. I saw that Showtime banner and I was thinking, this is what it's all about. But it still didn't kick in. After the knockdown, I was like, alright, I'm in a fight now. I need to fucking wake up and get my shit together.
And he did that outside of that first round.
After that initial first round knockdown, that first round scare, Tszyu took control of the action and became the ring general throughout, fighting the fight on his terms.
Yeah, for the most part, it looked like a Tszyu fight.
Tszyu, who stated he's a boxer. He likes to box from a distance, work on these sharp angles, noted Tszyu in making subtle adjustments after facing early adversity. The first few rounds, I wanted to be cautious, and I got caught.
Yeah, Tim looked hesitant coming out in that first round.
Hesitant to throw, hesitant to jab. It was in stalking Jarrell and backing him off that he got caught because he was stalking the guy, but he wasn't throwing while he was doing it.
That knockdown woke him up.
Certainly did, as he went on to land 236 of 749 punches thrown, landing in the 31st percentile.
I don't make much of the knockdown, to be honest.
I don't read too much into it because it was Tszyu's first fight out of Australia, because
Chalk it up to jitters, and even good fighters, really good fighters, they've been knocked down before.
both Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev got dropped by Darnell Boone.
Both of those guys had very accomplished careers.
Tyson Fury, he got knocked down by Nevin Pajcik and Steve Cunningham. He got knocked down 4 times by Deontay Wilder. Knockdowns happen, even to good fighters. Tszyu states, I have to stay active, make as much money as possible, and improve. Day by day.
Yeah, that's the way it is. The more you do something, the better you become at it.
Don't behoove no fighter to spend too much time outside the ring. They'll become a dull blade and lose their sharpness.
Tszyu's got the right idea.
I have to stay active, Tszyu told BoxingScene.com following his latest win, a 12-round decision over former title challenger Jarrell. Adversity builds character. That's what they say. And adversity in and of itself brings to light certain problem areas that need working on. Tszyu is a heavy-handed puncher. I mean, I think we've established that. And he's accustomed to getting more respect, him being a heavy-handed puncher, than what he got in that first round with Jarrell. Jarrell, who saw an opening and capitalized on it. Perhaps Tim isn't accustomed.
He goes in there, he hits a guy. Guy don't want to get hit like that. Guy gets scared to throw.
That might be what he's used to, and that might explain why he was so upright, so static in the early goings of that Jarrell fight. And he paid for it. He did.
He learned from his mistake and he let his hands go.
Did what he had to do. He stated, if Charlo and Castaño are just going to go on their honeymoon after their one fight this year, what am I going to do, theorized Tszyu, who has fought 6 times since the pandemic compared to a combined 4 times for Charlo and Castaño over that same stretch. I can't just wait around for my love, my boxing love, to come back. You got to stay active and make as much money as you possibly can. And you have to improve day by day. It's quite simple.
It really is. The more you do something, the better you become at it.
Yeah, Jermall Charlo, he only fought once in 2020, only once in 2021.
The same applies to his brother, Jamal.
Brian Castaño, he hasn't been all that busy the last couple of years. Tszyu hit the nail on the head. You've got to stay busy because you've got a limited window of opportunity in this sport to make a lot of money. So the more you're fighting, the more you're improving, the more money you'll make.
The more fanfare you'll create.
I'm looking forward to his next fight.